Power BI meets horse racing. It's going to be fast and furious. I have another inspiring Power BI story for you. Meet Steve Ross, the Director of Racing Operations at Retama Park, a horse racetrack in San Antonio, Texas. Steve tells us how they use Power BI to better run their racetrack. What blew me away in this interview was how universal the data challenges are. Whether you're struggling to combine multiple data sources or clean up messy data, we're all in the same boat. And the good news? Power BI can help, no matter what the industry, even horse racing. It's stories like Steve that get me excited, stories from real people just like you and me, using Power BI to make a real impact. These are the Power BI pioneers. If this video inspired you in any way, please leave a comment and let me and Steve know. Make sure to subscribe and click the bell so you are notified whenever I go live to help you in your Power BI journey. Let's hear it from Steve. Hey Steve, how are you doing today?
Avi, I'm doing great. Thank you.
All right, great. Well, glad to have you here. So tell me again, because I love hearing it. Tell us what do you do and where do you work?
So I work at a thoroughbred and quarter horse racetrack named Retama Park in San Antonio, Texas. Mm-hmm. And we race thoroughbreds and quarter horses. Our season is typically June to November with some variation. This year was a little bit shorter. And I've been doing that for 25 years.
All right. Now, I get a real kick about hearing Power BI being applied in these various industries. I remember once I had a cop on one of my Talk Power BI calls. So thoroughbred racing, that's like exotic to me. But tell me, how does Power BI get in there? How did you stumble upon it? Tell me a little bit of that story.
Okay, sure. Well, there's a lot of data in this business. We have a company that provides data files every day of the wagering activity that took place the day before, and we have to compile this. Now, generally that would be done by our finance people, but because I sort of have an interest in doing that sort of thing, I got involved in that. And typically what people want to see here, as is common in all businesses, I'm sure, is how did we do versus the same day the prior year.
Yeah.
So yeah, so at one time I actually started doing this a couple of years ago using pre Power Pivot, Power BI. I didn't even know it existed.
The old school way, yeah.
Really old school. It was what I knew, which was using Excel. Then I would to import it. Then I would use crystal reports.
Oh, I've been there. Yes,
crystal
yes.
reports, but it really wasn't getting the job done, because what would happen would be with that software, if there was an event that happened this year, but it did not happen the previous year, then it would leave it out of the final report. It dropped it. So that really was incomplete. So that really wasn't cutting it. So you'd almost have to manually match things up.
Ouch.
Sort of a cut, move down a little bit in the spreadsheet. Yeah. It was a mess.
And, let me pause there for a second. So I have lived exactly that life. It's all the memories are coming back. But the honest thing is that when I look back now, I do see it that way. But when I was there, I'm not sure. Maybe at that point I felt that I was doing a good job. So can you kind of separate that? I mean, at that time, did you feel like, oh, there has to be a better way, or were you maybe as clueless as I was? We're like, oh,
No. At that time, I thought there had to be a better way, because it was the kind of thing that said, this is just not sustainable doing this every day. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. So somebody else had a quote another day on I think the Talk Power BI, where they said that depending on when you ask me, sometimes I feel like I'm being paid way too much to do this, and other days I feel, man, they're not paying me enough to do this, right? Because it's so mind-numbing and boring. So get that,
Oh, yeah.
totally get that. So carry on. Yeah, tell us about the rest of your journey.
Well, so we have a guy here who used Access, and he did some reports with Access that were able to do what I really wanted to do, and I thought, boy, that's a lot better than what I'm doing. I'll let him do it. So I would always have to go to him and ask him for his stuff, and even then, it wasn't perfect. It was better than what I was doing before, but it really wasn't good. It was nothing like, as it turns out, like the time intelligence features of Power BI. I mean, which is just, mind blowing. Yeah. No, it's quantum leaps, and just so much better.
Oh, it's so good to hear that from somebody else. I feel like I'm the only guy. Like, guys, Power BI is great, awesome.
Oh, no, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, this is kind of funny. My son. I mean, I'm always talking about it at home, trying to get him involved, and he says, "What is it? Is this some kind of a cult?" Or a
You call it that?
I said, yeah, I guess it kind of is.
Yeah.
I said, because I'm not the only one who's like this, but
love it.
So kind of getting back to how, so that was sort of the old way of doing stuff, and then I'd have all these sort of ad hoc type of things I'd have to do, where I'd get a spreadsheet from a guy in our racing department that had the 100 columns. And every month I would do I essentially unpivot it by hand. So that then I could produce a report. Then that file would then be my Crystal Reports data. And then I would produce this report that was, multiple pages. But it was time consuming, but it was only once a month that I had to do it. But it did depend on how many columns there were, how long this was going to take me to do. And you are subject to mistakes when you're doing all that cutting and pasting. So really the first mind-blowing thing of the whole Power BI Power Pivot family was using Power Query to unpivot that data. And that really, that alone was worth it.
I can't agree more. Yeah. And it's chock full of things like that, where just by itself, it's kind of life-changing for that somebody stuck in that old world. Yeah, that's right.
And then secondly, the second thing that just kind of blew me away was this idea that you could develop, once again, in this is sort of got my start in Power Query, where you could make a report of some sort and then update it simply by copying the next day's the new file, putting it into a folder and refreshing. That's big, because we update every day. Every day.
So this is where in the query editor you can just point to a folder and say, go get all the files. And you can have somebody drop in a file at whatever schedule, daily, weekly, hourly, and it's just gonna pull that in. I know.
Next day, you download the file again, put it in that folder, refresh it.
Boom, it's there.
Done. Done.
Yeah, I mean it's in the bigger context of things, of everything Power BI offers. This is small stuff, but man, is it amazing, right? So that's great.
That's one thing that I've said it before, and I'll say it again to anybody who's listening. Just those few small things make a big difference.
Indeed.
Big difference.
Indeed.
I'm not a guy. I'm not a business analyst. I'm not a consultant. But I've gotten a lot of benefit, personal benefit out of the little bit that I know, and I learn a little bit more, each week. I'm moving forward.
We all are great. So tell me about the scenario you had where you talked about you were combining multiple data sources. Tell me more about that.
Okay, well, we just finished up our race meet, and we have a meeting at the Texas Racing Commission meeting at the end of September, where I have to present sort of just a report on what happened at our meeting, and maybe make a case for making some changes in the way some money is distributed.
All right.
Between the thoroughbreds and the quarter horses. So
all right.
I wanted to have some data, something that I could show, sort of in support of my position that maybe the quarter horses should get a little bit more money.
Yeah.
So that's what I did, and I had the handle data. That's the wagering data.
Mm-hmm.
I had acquired the data files from that bloodstock research, and
Got it. So those were two data sources.
Yeah, and then I was able to, this was kind of tricky for me. I don't know if I did it the right way, but it was so you've got a date and a race. That's sort of an identifier for a race, because you can have multiple dates and multiple races. So I was able, I created sort of a hybrid field, a merged field which related these two. And, it just worked. It worked the way it was supposed to work. I was very, very proud of it. I was. I am.
It felt almost too easy, it seems.
And there were some challenges to it. I learned a few things as I was going on, but I think there's really no limit to how far this could go. You could bring in things like I thought about weather, for example. You could go out and get a file that's got every day and whether it rained or not, whether it what the temperature was. And little bits at a time. I'm sure this will just be a work in progress that will.
That's true. I always say dashboard is never done, and I mean, frankly, I enjoy that process. I always call it kind of peeling the onion, and I really enjoy the process where you start with something and just go one level deeper, and as you're going that deeper levels, you're making it a lot more powerful, a lot more insightful, a lot more actionable. So that's great. Yeah. So I do know that you combine these two data sets, the wagering and the research data, but it wasn't quite complete. So what was the missing piece which you had to kind of fill in by yourself? Tell me a bit about that.
Okay, well, one of the data items in the bloodstock research data set is it was called, in there they called it the value of the race. It's the money that was distributed to the horses, the winning horses.
Got it.
Now, that money, the money for stakes races, though, can come from other sources as well. So I guess there's how much money did the racetrack out of its purse account pay, and how much came from other sources? Well, that data in bloodstock research doesn't show that. It just shows the total amount. It doesn't say where it came from.
Got it.
But I needed to know where it came from.
Yeah.
That was important to me. So we keep track. There's maybe 15 races. For example, one of our futurities has a purse of about $490,000. Well, only 40,000 of that comes from the racetrack's purse account. So it's important to know that. And there's the reason being. There's a reason for this, as I'm going to make an argument for more purse money for quarter horses. So I couldn't use the column as it was directly out of that data set. So I had to modify it.
Yeah.
And the way I did that was I literally created, it's probably 25, maybe 25 rows, maybe not even that much.
Yeah.
I was able to then bring that in.
Yeah.
And merge it with the the data from bloodstock research to create a new column. And I forget exactly what I did, but I used some if statements in there in a new field. And
so Steve,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say it's
I mean, great work.
Well,
Great work indeed. But what I'll say is I am feeling kind of stunned right now, because everything, every story, the whole story you kind of navigated us through, right? Where the old school way of doing things and the challenges you had there, and then discovering Power BI, right? The Power Query, Power Pivot, different elements, the unpivot, which was life-changing, files from a folder, which was life-changing, time intelligence, and then this scenario where you talked about where you were getting data from systems, right? This waging and all that, but that wasn't kind of 100% complete. There was a small thing that was missing, but you needed it. Without that, it would have been incomplete, inaccurate. This whole story, I have lived it a few times, certainly when I was working with Microsoft Finance team, and I have seen it play out so many times. So it's one of those things where you feel like, yeah, I mean, racetrack is going to be something exotic and out of the world. But to me, it feels like I feel like so bonded right now, right? Because I feel like the folks who are working with data, the challenges are not unique. It's not like oh, this is totally bizarre. We're all in a way struggling with the same universal challenges, and that's a great thing, because that means that's like more kind of confidence in Power BI that it can definitely help you no matter kind of which industry, which state you're in. So I'm going to ask you. So yeah, I really loved it. I'm going to ask you one more thing about the models you're building. So as I understand, your organization is going through a merger, and you are going to go from 3 racetracks to 14. But as I understand, you have built a model to showcase 1 racetrack, like understand everything about it. But now you can easily replicate it for 14.
That's right. It's like a franchise.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
You do it once and then you can replicate it. I will, when I get this thing fine-tuned a little bit, I'm going to send it to the new guys and see what they think of it. And if they like it, then they have the same data that for their tracks that we have. I mean, I'm sure they do. And then really what's kind of cool though is you just create some folders with their stuff in it and point this model to those folders and it refresh it and it's done.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. And you can add one more slicer to pick a site, and it's the same report. Yeah, I've always loved that kind of about Power BI. But now you can make your own call, but sometimes what I do is when I'm introducing Power BI to something, I play it really cool. I kind of lowball it, where I just set it casually saying, hey, check it out. And then they come back and usually they're like, whoa. So yeah, I can't wait to hear about that from you.
Yeah, I think that's kind of like I think I read this somewhere, maybe it was Rob Colley, the 30-minute rule.
Yeah, take some time.
Don't ever, even though you have it in 15 seconds, do not go back.
Yeah, so this is a corollary for that, I guess. I mean, when you send a report, don't say, oh, this report will blow you away. You're just setting the expectation way too high. Just say it casually. Yeah. All right, cool. So, hey, we started it off by talking about how does Power BI kind of fit in racetracks. Now, of course, what I learned during this interview and blew me away was that it's the same set of challenges. So the next question I'm going to ask you, and it's a good thing to kind of end things on, is within Microsoft, I face a lot of challenges evangelizing Power BI, and you meet some resistance. So I want to ask you about what kind of reception have you seen to Power BI, to this new school of stuff internally, and if you have any tips which you can share to kind of smooth that out, or what have you learned from that experience trying to just socialize it, evangelize it within your organization?
Yeah, well, that's an interesting question, because there are some people here that are extremely receptive to Power BI.
All right.
And those are people who who they see it has really helped them. They have taken, and truthfully, most of them, it's really just Power Query where saved them, because they would get these data files, or even a text file of some sort, and have to do something with it every week, and it's just helped them a lot. So they're very receptive, and that would be like a couple of our department managers, very receptive. Great. Now, I have produced some pretty they're pretty standard looking reports, but they're nice, and they I think some of the management here, they just don't. It's not that they're anti Power BI. They just don't understand. They like the report, but I don't see them diving in there and and learning it. But that's nothing on them. I mean, they're busy people, and they just kind of look at me funny, They I really do try to explain it to people. I don't just I tell them how I do it and everything, and some do, because I really think that it can help them all. I think everybody can benefit.
Indeed. Yeah, that's a great point.
No matter what they do, they don't have to have big dreams of being big fancy models. They just basic stuff. So
that's true. It can't help them whether they're kind of into it or not. It is one lesson which I feel that I do need to remember, which is I sometimes kind of get impatient with that kind of audience. Like, oh gosh, don't you get it, right? I mean, I want everybody to be gung-ho and excited. But hearing from you reminded me of another mentor who talked about the same scenario, and he talked about that, Avi, you don't hit them on the head with the data, right? So it seems like having just go at their pace. If they're gonna take a longer time, let them, let that kind of sink in, rather than you trying to, necessarily push them forward.
Well, it doesn't dampen my enthusiasm. If they're not interested, then I'm like, that's their loss.
That's good.
I'm still moving forward.
Yeah, you're helping the people you can help, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Awesome. I help them, and they're very enthused. And the others, I mean, I produce reports that are beneficial to them. If they don't create the report, that's fine.
Yeah.
I can do it. And I don't mind doing it.
That's terrific, Steve. All right, man. That was really great. It was, and I want to thank you for your time today.
Oh, my pleasure.
All right, take care.
All right, thanks, Avi.
Help those whom you can. That's what makes Steve a pioneer. If you would like to start on your journey to become a Power BI pioneer, then join us in the Learn Power BI family. There is information in the details below. Power on, my friend.